Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Men of Scarlet and Gray Live. As always, your host, Josh Schott, here every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, joined by fellow Men of Scarlet and Gray writers. Today I'm joined by Andrew. Andrew, how's it going?
Hey, everybody, how we doing?
And, of course, always controversial Shannon Sommers. Shannon, how's it going today?
Hello, Buckeye Nation OH.
Hi-oh. We got a lot to talk about in today's show. Of course, the fallout to the Virginia Tech loss, the Big Ten's horrible weekend, and the Penn State news. There's not a shortage of things to talk about in college football right now, especially regarding our own Buckeyes and the Big Ten. We're hoping to have Chip join us soon, and also later in the show, Allen Moff, a Kent State beat writer for the Record-Courier, will be joining us around 6:30. So you don't want to miss that as we preview the Buckeyes game against Kent State. So first things first, guys. Ohio State's lost to Virginia Tech. It was heartbreaking. It was disappointing. It was sloppy. What are your thoughts? We'll start with you, Shannon.
It took me by surprise. Everything that I thought was going to happen obviously didn't happen. Everything I predicted, I was way off. They showed, I watched the Virginia Tech William Mary game, and it looked like two completely different teams. They came out with a game plan, they executed it, and Ohio State looked befuddled. Whether, the coaching staff was confused, the players were confused, all across the board, they brought their A game and they took it to us.
Andrew, what were your initial thoughts?
We've known the Buckeyes to play better in the second half, and, after the first half, I figured, okay, Urban will shape them up. We'll see a different Buckeye team in the second half, and it seemed that just didn't happen this week. I felt like everything was not working for Ohio State, special team wise. Obviously, we missed 2 field goals, that bad punt. I don't think it was the Buckeyes' weekend. I don't think that was the true Buckeye team that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, there was a lot of sloppiness, and that's, of course, that's going to happen when you have new starters, newer players out there in the field who aren't used to that big game atmosphere. Of course, a record-setting attendance for the Horseshoe, and the brilliant thing about it was, even though they were struggling, seemed like they were tripping over themselves the entire game, they still hung in it till the very end. They had a chance to win that game. I thought they were going to come back there on that amazing catch made by who was it? Dontre Wilson made that catch there. That amazing catch that made SportsCenter's top 10, and then they scored the touchdown. They tied the game. I thought, okay, this is where they're going to get out of it, the funk. They're going to win the game, and they fell apart. They fell apart, and the first thing to talk about falling apart is the offensive line. Barrett was getting killed all game back there. I'm surprised he isn't hurt as a fall out of that game. I want to know what your guys' thoughts on the line. Start with you, Shannon.
The line. We knew that the line was going to have problems. We were hoping that they were going to, fix some of the issues, but then, we find out yesterday that Chad Lindsey, he ends his career, so he's done for, and he was, going for that backup center position, transfer from Alabama, and we were kind of counting on him. So, the offensive line is a real problem, and you would think that with Ed, I forget his last name. Who's our offensive line coach?
Ed Werner.
Yeah, I couldn't think of his last name. But you would think with his experience, because he's rebuilt this offensive line how many times, that he'd have these guys ready to play, and they weren't. They weren't ready to play. And in the second half, the adjustments that Virginia Tech made, they were in the backfield more than anything. I mean, they had. Let me look at the stats here, but I forget how many.
He dropped back after the snap, and it wasn't 5 seconds when he was laying on the ground. I mean, Daddy Nicholas, the defensive end for Virginia Tech, just seemed like every single play he was busting through the line, getting right to Barrett and putting pressure on him. And, of course, Barrett couldn't do anything about it. I mean, he tried. I mean, anyone who wants to blame that loss on Barrett, I think, is crazy because that line just did not hold for him. It did not give him the time he needed to make the plays necessary to win that game.
Well, they gave up 7 sacks. That's unheard of for Ohio State.
It's way too many.
You're just not going to do anything. And then you can't, everybody was sitting there, going after Urban Meyer and Herman saying, you abandoned the running game. You couldn't get a running game going behind that offensive line.
We got
if you can't pass,
yards.
you can't run.
Right.
58 yards from the running backs. You can't expect to have a good passing game if you're only getting under 60 yards from your running backs for the entire game.
And if you can't run, you can't set up the pass.
Right.
You're one-dimensional, and the defense is just licking their chops.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and the inexperience. I mean, everyone talked about losing Braxton, losing Carlos Hyde, but lost 4 stars on the offensive line, and that game showed it right there.
Exactly.
You can't do nothing without a good line. I mean, it starts with your core, and your offensive line is your core, and the Buckeyes they couldn't block. And the other part that really disappointed me was the secondary. The secondary was just giving up big plays all night. I want to start with you, Andrew. Your thoughts on the secondary? Did you think they were as disappointing as I thought they were?
I can't count how many times did Virginia Tech convert on what? 3rd and 15, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 18. It was awful to watch. It was frustrating.
Yeah, they were 9 for 17 on 3rd down conversions.
That's awful.
Yeah, that was the other thing that was infuriating me. We'd stop them 1st and 2nd down the whole first half, and 3rd down they would find a way every time on 3rd down, guy wide open on the outside, and it was the same play. It felt like the same play, the same tight end was catching the 3rd down pass.
I mean,
defense was just breaking down.
If you look at the stats, they gave up 199 yards passing, which you're like, oh, that's not all that much, especially with the secondary that last 2 years, or, especially last year's given up, I think, a lot more, in the last 2 games of the season. But the key, like you were saying, is not getting off the field on 3rd down. Giving up that big play every 3rd down. It seemed like every 3rd down. We were 4 for 16 on 3rd down conversions, and they were 9 for 17.
And you can't put it all in the secondary either because the defensive line wasn't consistent all night. When they got pressure, they get off the field. But when they weren't getting pressure on that quarterback, they had all day to throw because the secondary just couldn't keep up with the receivers.
Yeah.
It was tough to watch. It was very frustrating.
And part of the secondary is that defensive line. That defensive line trying to get pressure has got to help that secondary out. And before the season started, Bennett even said, we've got, 4 to 5 seconds to get to that quarterback in order to help the secondary out. They weren't doing that, especially on the 3rd downs, and it exposed the secondary.
And they're supposed to be the strong part of our team. I mean, they were hyped so much coming into the season, and they're supposed to be the rock of this team. This was the one part of the team where we had experience, we had talent, we had everything coming back.
That's the part that hurt.
Luckily, we have Spence back.
Yeah, the addition of him will help, but it's just that there's a lot to work on for the Buckeyes. There's just a lot of stuff. I mean, is there anything else you guys want to add before we get to about the fans after the game? I know Shannon wants to talk about that. Is there anything else you guys want to add about the game? Any bright spots that you think you've seen, or is there any other spots you think they really need to work on?
They played decent against the run, I think. And then, I also think the receivers didn't help out JT much. There was a lot of drop passes that should have been caught.
Corey Smith.
Yeah, I don't know why they threw to him like 15 times that game.
Yeah, they kept keying on him, and he kept dropping the ball. There was a lot of key drops that, if they would have caught, would have helped out a lot.
Maybe even won the game.
Yeah. And you could tell that the youth and inexperience, it really bit them in the butt this game.
Yeah, a lot of inexperience.
The good thing is this is definitely a learning moment for those guys, and hopefully they seem. I mean, I saw some of the players' reactions on Twitter. They seem pretty positive. They're keeping their heads up, and they still have a chance for 11-1 season and a trip to the Big Ten championship game. So, I mean, you can't dwell on these losses. You gotta build on them and move on. Speaking of moving on, some fans don't want to seem to move on to it. Of course, after every loss on Twitter, there's going to be some unruly fans going after the players and coaches. But of course, there's some special idiots out there afterwards that want to go after them and just really attack the players and the players' parents even. And Shannon, I'll let you talk about this first. Your thoughts on that? 'Cause I know you've been waiting on talking about this, so I'll let you go. I'll rein you in if you get too far.
As I was told, count to 1,000,000.
Deep breaths. Deep breaths.
This is a problem, just like when a recruit chooses another college over Ohio State, and this doesn't just happen at Ohio State, this happens at other colleges, when fans go and chastise, said recruit on Twitter. People going after players on Twitter after the game. Why are, as fans that are sitting at home with a bag of Cheetos or Doritos, drinking your beer, not even playing in the game, not even having the courage or the athletic ability to be in that game or to play the game itself, going to go after the players that are putting in all the hard work and dedication that are trying to win, going after them on Twitter? You think it didn't hurt these guys losing this game? You don't have a bad day at work? People don't go after you at, on Twitter, oh, look at you, you filed your paperwork wrong, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. I think it's a coward move. I just read an article, and I'm not going to give the guy's Twitter handle out because I'm not going to give him any kind of credit, but he went after Joey Bosa for playing a video game, saying he's not dedicated for playing video games. He's a human being. If there's one person that's dedicated, I'm going to say it's Joey Bosa. Kid had 2 sacks, plays his butt off. I'm not going to sit there and say anybody on that Ohio State football team is not dedicated. Do not go after the players. Do not go after the coaches. Do not go after the coaches' wives. Do not go after the players' parents on Twitter. Be a human being. Stop being a coward and hiding behind a keyboard. It's sickening. It really, that's not what Buckeye Nation's about. After a loss, we're supposed to come together as a family, pick ourselves up, wipe ourselves off, and move on to the next one. We don't go after each other. That's not Buckeye Nation.
I couldn't have said it any better.
That's a great point, Shannon.
Exactly how I feel.
Yeah. It's frustrating seeing that out of Buckeye fans because that's not how Buckeye fans want to be represented as.
And there was a lot of Buckeye fans that were, tweeting a lot of good stuff out, calling for, it's uncalled for what they were doing. There are true Buckeye fans out there that care for the team, care for the fan, the coaches and everything. I mean, how dare you sit there and start a thread to say fire Urban Meyer? 3 games in 3 years, he's lost.
And how many in his first season?
How many schools would kill for that? And you all of a sudden want to fire the guy?
We're taking wins for granted. Some fans are taking the wins for granted.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand that, Ohio State holds, a higher prestige for, how we want to finish our season and everything like that. But come on, you have to live in reality. This is not the team up north. We are not finishing 7 and 8. We're not we're not getting. We didn't put up a goose egg against Notre Dame.
No, I know where you're going with this shit. Somebody left the same kind of comment I saw on the website saying we're going to win 6, 7, 8 games now, and it's like you're basing this off of one loss, one game where they play bad. Everybody, as you said, has a bad day of work. Everyone playing football has a bad game. The team had a bad game. They're got to rebound from this. They're got to learn. The Buckeyes are going to win at least 10 games. I'll eat my hat if they don't win 10 games.
Like I said, that wasn't the normal Buckeye team we're going to be seeing this season.
The worst part about it was, like Josh said, they were in it to the end, and they were driving down, and Barrett threw that interception. They were still in it.
And even it was the same way with the other two losses Urban had. The Big Ten Championship, we were in it to the end. The Clemson game in the Orange Bowl, as disastrous as that game was, we were in it to the end. All of Urban Meyer's games he's coached at Ohio State, we've been in the game to the very end.
This isn't the 2007 national championship where we got blown out. We are in these games. We lost them, but we're in them.
People got to remember, Virginia Tech, that's a good team we played. They played a hell of a game. So.
They did. And you have to give Virginia Tech credit.
Especially Bud Foster, I mean, because they had a whole new front seven, and he had them raring to go. They played the game of their lives, and it showed. I mean, Bud Foster got them prepared. Beamer, yes, Urban may have got out-coached this game, but you still shouldn't ask for him to be fired. I mean, Beamer may have out-coached him, but Beamer's a pretty dang good coach. He's the longest tenured coach in college football for a reason.
Well, it showed me that all off-season that they prepared for Ohio State, and they brought something completely different that Ohio State was not prepared for. Ohio State never seen for Virginia Tech.
Is there anything else you guys want to add? 'Cause we should move on now to the Big Ten, and of course the Big Ten wasn't any better. I was going to run through all the Big Ten scores, but everyone out there listening, you guys know all the scores. What happened? Nebraska had a lot closer game they should have with McNeese State. Michigan State lost to Oregon. Michigan got shut out by Notre Dame. The whole conference is a mess right now. I don't know if you guys read my post on the site about conference pride and all that stuff, and there's just nothing you can do except win these games, and I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the whole Big Ten right now. Just what your thoughts?
It was a tough weekend. You know, I was really hoping for Michigan State to pull through against Oregon. But, you know, obviously the whole Big Ten, and now we're going to hear this at the end of the season when they discuss the playoffs, who's going to make the playoffs. We're going to get the same thing as we got last year. Oh, their conference isn't good. They didn't play good teams. So I think last week really hurt us with the reputation for this season.
Well, I think that the Big Ten became irrelevant in week 2, and that stung. Me as a Big Ten fan, Buckeye fan, that stung.
Absolutely. It was hard to watch. I mean, it was just like the Buckeye game. It was very hard to watch the Big Ten. I didn't think Michigan had a chance to beat Notre Dame, but I never envisioned them losing a game that badly. I mean, I didn't watch any of it. I just looked at the box score, and I could just tell they were dominated. They were a dominated football team. And as I call out my post, Brady Hoke is simply not good enough for them. As much as we hate those guys up north, we need them. We need them in this conference. We need them for the rivalry, not just the rivalry, but the conference as a whole. I mean, in 2006, the game was number 1 Ohio State and number 2 Michigan. That the Big Ten was on the top of the world then. We had the top 2 teams in the nation going at it in a primetime game, and it was a great game. And everyone was, I mean, that was really the moment the Big Ten was at its highest. And then, of course, ever since the Buckeyes lost the national championship later that season, it's been downhill for the Big Ten ever since. And I don't think Pelini's cutting into Nebraska either. I mean, I listed the 6 teams in the conference that represent our reputation. It's the Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Do you feel those 6 teams are the ones that dictate the reputation of this conference? Because nobody's expecting Illinois or Indiana to do anything.
No, you're 100% right.
Definitely.
And it's funny how you said in 2006 at number 1, number 2, Ohio State, Michigan, that was, you know, the top where the Big Ten was, you know, the powerhouse, you know, relevant. And in that January 2007 is when all of a sudden the SEC took over, and that was the fall of the Big Ten.
Yep. That's exactly right. I mean, that's really, if you want to pinpoint a moment where the Big Ten fell, that was the moment right there.
Yeah.
It's just there's nothing you can do though. You can't win back the reputation in a week. I mean, the Big Ten needs to put its heads down and win ball games. And for Michigan, Nebraska, as I caught out in my post, they need to seriously look at their programs right now. And if they're happy with 8 to 9 wins, they need to get the heck out of the conference because they are expected to do more. We didn't bring Nebraska in to win 8 or 9 games a season and go to the Gator Bowl. Michigan is not Michigan. Michigan doesn't belong in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. They should be competing for the Rose Bowl. They should be competing for national titles every single season. There's no excuses.
I'm just worried. Go ahead.
I was just going to point out a quick fact. We only have 3 ranked teams right now in the Big Ten, which is not good.
No.
And the SEC has like 7, I think.
Yeah.
A lot more.
The only thing that worries me about Nebraska is hearing the athletic director say that Bo Pelini's not going to go anywhere, and he doesn't really care about – I don't want to –
But Shannon, you got cut off there. I'll let you finish your point in a minute. But I think I know you're going along the lines of the administration feels Pelini is a good fit, but those fans deserve far better. I mean, they're one of the most loyal fan bases in college football.
That they are.
Definitely.
I don't have anything else to say about that nightmare weekend. I think the best thing to do is just forget about it and move on because, I mean, losses are losses. You just gotta pick up the pieces and move on. Is there any other thoughts you guys want to throw in about the Big Ten's week 2?
Put Black Saturday behind you. Move on.
Yeah, move on. Forget about it.
Let's move on to our predictions for this week's upcoming games. We'll start first with the national games. We're going to take a look first at number 6 Georgia at number 24 South Carolina. South Carolina, of course, opened up the season with their surprising blowout loss at home against Texas A&M. They pulled out a 10-point victory last weekend against East Carolina. Georgia is 2-0 to start the season, including a big win over Clemson on the opening weekend. Who do you guys like here, the Bulldogs or the Gamecocks? We'll start with you, Andrew.
I think Georgia's been playing really dominant, and I was a little disappointed with how South Carolina played against A&M, especially at home. So I'm picking Georgia to win. I think Georgia beats them pretty good, especially it seems like they're doing whatever they want with Todd Gurley. He's running like a monster, so I have to go with Georgia.
I have to agree.
I'm going to make it 3 in a row. I think Georgia rolls easily in this game. South Carolina was an overrated team. I don't care what Steve Spurrier says. They had no business being in the top 10, and Georgia's got to knock them out of the top 25 this weekend. So, moving on, number 12, UCLA at Texas. The only reason I chose this game, even though Texas just came off a shutout loss at home against BYU, UCLA hasn't been very impressive, if you want my opinion, in these opening 2 weekends. They struggled against Virginia. They struggled against Memphis. So I really think Texas has a shot in this game. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think UCLA rolls, or does Texas surprise everyone and knock off the top 12 team? We'll start with you, Shannon.
Who did I see that Texas who's their starting quarterback?
Ash, he's out with
yeah, Ash is out, so they're going to be rolling with a new quarterback, so that's going to be kind of interesting. I'm not too familiar with him, so based on losing to BYU or I'm going to go with UCLA.
I'm going with UCLA as well.
Yeah, I think Texas will make it closer than everyone expects, but I think UCLA will roll in this one too. So we'll move on to the Big Ten games, and it doesn't get any easier for the Big Ten this week as there's some formidable foes they have to face, and we'll start off with West Virginia at Maryland. The Mountaineers are 1-1 on the season. They lost to Alabama on the opening weekend, and taking on Maryland, who's 2-0, but they struggled to a win against South Florida last weekend. Do the Terps pull this one out, Shannon?
I'm going with West Virginia. They got a pretty good air game, passing game going on, so I'm going with West Virginia. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I really do. But I think the Mountaineers are going to pull this one off.
What do you
Yeah,
think, Andrew?
from what I saw from West Virginia against Alabama, I think West Virginia comes in and it's a close first half, but I think West Virginia pulls it out at Maryland.
I really wanted to pick Maryland this game. I really did. They got some unique uniforms this week, and I don't know if you guys saw that with the patriotic scheme they got going. It's better than their usual uniforms, but I think it's going to be a close game. Like Shannon said, it's going to be a shootout. I think West Virginia rolls in this because they simply got a better team. So moving on, Indiana at Bowling Green. Bowling Green 1-1. Indiana only 1-0 to start the season after a bye week in week 2. Do the Hoosiers go on the road and pull off a victory, Andrew?
Initially, in the beginning of the season, I thought Bowling Green was going to be a better team, but they had a tough first game, so I have to go with Indiana going on the road and beating Bowling Green.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Hoosiers in this one.
Yeah, I think Hoosiers roll pretty easily in this game. Falcons, like you said, Andrew, they're not as good as everyone thought they were this year. So moving on to a rivalry game, Iowa State at Iowa. Iowa State's opened up with 2 heartbreaking losses. First to the FCS team, and then to Kansas State last weekend. It was a shootout game on Fox Sports 1. That was a pretty exciting finish. The Hawkeyes barely pulled a win out of their bag of tricks against Ball State. Ball State was up 10 with minutes to go before the Hawkeyes came storming back to win the game to remain undefeated. This is an interesting game, guys. These rivalry games are always close. You think the Hawkeyes roll or the Cyclones, Shannon?
Is it me, or does it seem like Iowa's playing down to their competition?
I agree.
It seems like it to me.
'Cause, I mean, everybody's saying, Iowa's a sleeper for, the West over there. And every game that they're playing so far is against subpar teams, and it's extremely close. This game, I think, is going to be another extremely close game, but I think they find a way to pull it out. Iowa.
I have to agree. I think Iowa pulls this one out, and I'm still high on Iowa, but, I mean, these past couple games, they really haven't looked like a dominant Iowa team that I thought they were going to be. But, I mean, I still think they find a way to come out and beat Iowa State.
I'm going to have to disagree with you guys. I've lost faith in the Hawkeyes after these opening 2 weekends. I don't know. Maybe Ferentz, they don't listen to him anymore, or like you said, they're playing down their opponents. I don't have faith in the Hawkeyes here. I think the Cyclones pull off a road victory. I'm going to say by a field goal, last-second field goal. That's usually how these rivalry games are with these two, and I think the Cyclones beat the Hawkeyes. So moving on, the team up north hosts Miami of Ohio. They should roll in this game, shouldn't they, guys? Or you think the Red Hawks got something up their sleeve? We'll start with you, Andrew.
I think Michigan bounces back and hopefully has a decent win. It doesn't look like the team they looked against Notre Dame and the other bad Big Ten non-conference game. So I have Michigan.
Well, if Michigan doesn't win this game, I guarantee you somebody's going to be unemployed come Sunday morning.
Dave Brandon.
And maybe him too. He might be back. He might be back at Domino's.
I think Michigan rolls too. If they do, I agree with you, Shannon. They lose. There's going to be some heads rolling on coming the following Monday, maybe even that night.
Yeah, because the trustees are not going to stand for that. I mean, it's bad enough because I think after this you got to play Utah.
Yep, they host Utah, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think they can win that game.
And you still got to play, Michigan State and Ohio State. It's not looking good for them up there. Not looking good at all.
They got a lot more work even than the Buckeyes do, I think. So we'll see if they can get some redemption this week against the MAC team. Illinois at Washington now. This was a close game last year when a lot of people didn't think it would be close. I think it's going to be a close game again. What do you think, guys? Does Westland go out west and pick up a big victory for them, or do the Huskies pull out? Because the Huskies, they've had 2 very close games against 2 clearly inferior opponents the opening 2 weekends. So I don't know. What do you think, guys? Shannon, Illini or Huskies?
I don't know, because it depends on which half of, which Illinois team's going to show up. Because, like that, the game this last weekend, it was a tale of two different halves.
Yeah, the Western Kentucky game. They look good. They look horrible the first half. Then the second half, they were firing all cylinders.
Right. I mean, I want to say Illinois, but something's telling me Washington.
I'm going to go with Illinois. I mean, their passing game has been pretty good with West Lawn, so I think Illinois goes out to Washington and gets a win.
This is a coin flip game for me. I think either team can win this game easily, in my opinion. I really want to see Illinois. I'd love to see Illinois go out there and get that win. It'd be a solid victory for the Big Ten. I mean, it wouldn't be huge. I mean, Washington did start off the season ranked, but they struggle with Hawaii and Eastern Washington, so it's going to be close. It'll be high scoring. It'll go in the 50s, I think. It should be fun to watch. I'm going to go with Washington just because it's at home for them. But if Illinois wins, I won't be shocked. So Minnesota at TCU. This is an interesting matchup. We really don't know each team really well, but you got to think the Horned Frogs have an advantage being at home here in Fort Worth. Andrew, did the Golden Gophers get a road victory?
Yeah, I think Minnesota does go, and I think Cobb has a big game running. I mean, he's already almost had 300 yards on the season. I just have a gut feeling that they go out to TCU and get a win.
The thing that kills me about Minnesota this year is for 3.5 quarters, they come out and they look great. And their defense looks great. And then all of a sudden you look at the final score and they give up 20, 28 points. That last, in the fourth quarter, they give up a bunch of points. I'm going TCU.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, it's a toss-up. This is another toss-up because we really don't know each team. Really, if you look across college football, most of the teams, there's not a lot of teams that are impressing me. There's a lot of teams still finding themselves. It's completely up in the air right now. We really don't know a lot about a lot of teams. I'm going to go TCU, again, just because it's at TCU. If Minnesota pulls it off, that's great. If not, I won't be surprised. So we move on to another point. I don't even need to ask you who's got to win this game, guys. Purdue at number 11, Notre Dame. How many points do the Irish hang on the Boilermakers here?
Hey, I'm calling for Purdue in the upset just to stick it to that team up north.
Seriously?
No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say.
You all right there, Shannon?
We need help. Send help to Shannon.
Wouldn't that be something, though?
That would be hilarious.
It would be a win if Purdue scores.
Yeah, if they can get 3 points and maybe a couple of 3 and out to win.
You think Notre Dame hangs 50?
45 or 50, yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. What's his name? Golston? He's looking really good.
Golston's playing good, especially because after not playing last year, he's throwing the ball nice.
Yeah, he is.
I'll be interested to see what they do against better competition because I'm still not sold on the Fighting Irish yet. They do this every season where if they beat Michigan, they're anointed one of the top teams in the country. If they beat a good team, then I'll believe them. But I do agree Golston has been looking good, and he'll put huge numbers up. He'll only play probably about 2.5 quarters in this before they yank him and put in the third stringers. Irish will roll. So
I don't think they're let down. I know what you're talking about, having their letdown game, but I don't think their letdown game is going to be this week. I think it's going to be against Navy.
Yeah.
Navy's not bad.
Navy's pretty dang good. Hopefully that win looks better as the season gets going for the Buckeyes. It keeps going for the Buckeyes. The first Big Ten game actually this weekend, Penn State at Rutgers, of course. The big news, Penn State, as the NCAA lifted their bowl ban effective immediately and restored all scholarships for next season. Huge news for Penn Staters. I'll talk about the fallout of that happened on campus for them last night when I make my prediction. But if you guys, who do you think's going to win this game? And feel free to throw in your thoughts on the Penn State decision. I forgot to cover that earlier in the show, but feel free to throw your thoughts in on that. We'll start with you, Andrew.
Well, first, I'd like to talk about their ban being lifted. I think it's fair. I really don't think the current kids and current players, they shouldn't be punished over an adult's stupid decision. So I was happy to see that ban got lifted. But I mean, it's showing how inconsistent the NCAA is. So now I'll go to the game. I've been pretty impressed with Rutgers these first 2 games. So I'm going to have to go with the upset. And I think Rutgers wins at home. It's a night game. I think they get a big showing, crazy atmosphere for their first Big Ten game. So I have Penn State getting upset by Rutgers.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Rutgers myself. The biggest concern that I have, for Rutgers is their secondary with, going against Hackenberg. But I think that Rutgers has more depth than Penn State, and I think that this game is going to show where the depth is going to start hurting Penn State. I know that they only beat Akron by 21-7, but I think that was kind of a hangover game. Having to travel back from Ireland, so I don't take that into consideration. But I think it's going to be kind of close, and I'm going to go with Rutgers by 3.
Yeah, it's going to be a close game, I think, to Shannon. I really wanted to go to Penn State here because I thought they were going to come in with the emotional high of that bowl ban being lifted. But I think Rutgers at home with a rabid, packed fan, a lot of fans there at the game, and I think Rutgers pulls it out. Their running back's been looking great. Their quarterback's been. He hasn't had a lot of mistakes so far. I think they pull it out. It'll be a good game to watch, I think. As far as the fallout of the Penn State thing, I was happy at first because I thought, like Andrew, innocent people shouldn't be punished. But then you see stuff like last night. I saw on Deadspin outside the campus where all the students. I know it's not all fans. I don't want any Penn State fans listening. I'm not going after all of you. I'm going after some of you that were very stupid last night, chanting for Joe Paterno's name and demanding they put the statue back up. It's just sickening. It just shows those group of fans did not learn a dang thing from their bowl ban or than punishment, because apparently football is bigger than kids getting raped.
3,000 to 4,000 kids were out there.
Oh, that's a lot.
3,000 to 4,000 kids were out there chanting.
I don't know if I don't know if it'd be fair to say all of them, but 95% of them were.
That's ridiculous.
But it's sickening. It really sickened me to see that, and I hope the Penn State alumni and the Penn State fans that weren't out there cheering, that were also just as sickened as I was, they do something about it. They speak up about it, and I hope Franklin says something about it, because they need to move on. They need to move on from it. Paterno covered up child molestations, plain and simple. He covered up that stuff, and the fact that you're chanting for his statue to be put back up, I mean, there's a reason why there's people calling Penn State fans cultists on Twitter, because that's what a cultist does. That's what people in cults do. Is there any other things you wanted to add on that, Shannon or Andrew?
I have to disagree with you guys about lifting the bowl ban. As far as I'm concerned, I understand where you guys are coming from, that, these guys that are part of the team, they weren't a part of it. The university is the one that got punished. When these guys signed a letter of intent, they knew what they were getting themselves into, and they knew there was a 4-year ban. The NCAA should have stuck with that 4-year ban. They should have, as far as the scholarship reductions, like Josh and I were talking about earlier, maybe they should have eased up some on the scholarship reductions because of the depth issues and stuff, but not gotten rid of all of them. I think that they should have still, stuck with the bowl ban myself personally and some scholarship reductions. Because this, to me, now looks, I mean, if you're a USC fan or an Ohio State fan, now you sit here and, all right, so you're saying child molestation is just a little bit, just a little bit worse than tattoos? Or Reggie Bush getting a little, some money is just as bad? Yeah, is just as bad as child molestation? I know it's comparing apples to oranges, but, and this is unprecedented as far as the NCAA coming and stepping in this situation, and maybe they shouldn't have, but they did. And they should have stuck to their guns and stuck to the whole 4 years.
And you don't even bring up the whole mess they had in Miami here years ago.
Oh, you mean the death penalty that they should have gotten?
Yeah. That's the NCAA is just they're competing with the NFL right now for dumbest decisions, and you could spend a whole show talking about it. In fact, that's something we could definitely talk about on next week's show. We hope to have a big roundtable of people in to talk about the whole NCAA, because we could spend a whole show talking about that.
Yeah, most definitely.
That's the Penn State Rutgers, and I'm done ranting now about Penn State fans. Hopefully they stop chanting, and I'll stop ranting on Twitter about it. But one more Big Ten game before we get to the Ohio State-Kent State preview. Nebraska at Fresno State. This is definitely a trap game for the Huskers. They could definitely lose this game. Playing at Fresno State is no joke. Does Fresno State get a home victory here? Do the Huskers pull another one out?
Abdullah says no.
I agree.
Yep, I think Abdullah is the difference again. The Husker fans, be thankful you have Amir Abdullah, because he saved you last week and he'll probably save you again.
That was crazy. He pulled. That man was not going down for anything. You could have been Antonio Brown for the Pittsburgh Steelers and kicked him in the helmet. He wasn't going down.
You had to throw the Pittsburgh reference in.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I think Nebraska, they win this game, it'll be close. Pelini always loves to make them close. So moving on to our Kent State, the preview against Kent State, our special guest, Allen Moff, apparently had some difficulties, couldn't join us. So we're going to break down the game ourselves. Guys, going into this game, what's the number one thing you want to see the Buckeyes focus on this game for improving coming off that loss? We'll start with you, Andrew.
The biggest thing I want to see is I want to see the offensive line play a little bit better. I want to see more of a running game, because like we said before, that will open up so much more. I want to see Ezekiel Elliott get some more touches, at least 10 or 15 a game, because I feel like he hasn't been involved in the offense too much. And then, as we said, running game is good. That opens up the passing game, and then we could see another explosive Ohio State offense like we did last season. But it all starts up front with the offensive line. So that's what I want to see.
I want to see the tight ends used more, but it seems like we have to keep the tight ends back in order to help protect because of the deficiencies at the line. So
I want to see JT Barrett not get killed. That's what I want to see. I want to see the offensive line pancaking guys left and right on the Kent State defensive line. Kent State's 0-2 coming this game. There's no reason why the Buckeyes can't manhandle this team. I want to see the Ohio State coming out firing on all cylinders. I want to see them hang as many points as they possibly can and play with some anger, play with some passion. Really get fired up. Even if you get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, show that you're passionate. Show how much that loss last week angered you and motivated you to come out and just kick Kent State's butt. That's what I want to see.
I think that's one thing that's been missing from this team. Like the first 2 years, Urban's always been saying he wants to see an angry football team. We haven't seen an angry football team. Maybe we're going to start seeing an angry football team.
Let's hope they go out and make a point on Saturday.
That's what's needed right now.
And getting Spence back for this game is going to be huge. I haven't heard anything on Washington as far as his, how he is, because I know he got hurt a little bit in that Virginia Tech game. But we need to get that defensive line straightened out before we start, the Cincinnati game. Because Cincinnati's not going to be, it should be a walkthrough, but it's not going to be a walkthrough the way we played against Virginia Tech.
I'll be curious to see how they play. They play Toledo during the week this week, I believe. Okay. Thursday or Friday night. I can't remember off the top of the head. But they had a double bye to start the season. I'll be curious to see how they play against a solid Rockets team.
That'll be interesting. I want to see the receivers step up and help out JT a little bit.
Yeah, hang on to the ball. Catch the ball.
Please. We can't be dropping touchdown passes with a redshirt freshman, scarlet-shirt freshman quarterback.
And that reminds me, too, I hope Urban gets as many players as possible into this game. So let's see who wants to step up and be a key part of the team and who wants make or break. Everyone's job should be on the line. Everyone should go out there and have to prove that they earn their starting position. They earn their spot on the team.
Exactly.
I want to see some Cardell Jones get in on Saturday. We haven't seen him yet.
Yeah, it would be nice to see him get in the game.
Get some reps.
I agree.
Kent State, they're coming in the game 0-2. They lost to OU to start the season. And then they lost to South Alabama last weekend. They haven't been looking very good from what I've saw. They haven't been scoring a lot of points. They've been having trouble stopping the run. Do you guys you think Kent State has a chance against the Buckeyes in this game, or you think this is just going to be a rout? Start with you, Shannon.
I'm hoping that they don't have a chance, and I'm hoping for a rout. Kent State might still be reeling from losing their center. Was he Braxton Miller's teammate when I think they went to the same school? I don't know if I think they were teammates. Their starting center that passed away right before the season started.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But I think they're still reeling from that. But they don't have the talent that Ohio State has. I mean, you can't.
If they had Dree Archer like they did last year, this year, I would be a little worried.
Yeah, I agree. And Kent State does once in a while pull in, some talent and stuff like that, but they just don't. They don't have the speed that Ohio State has. Of course, Of course, if you watch a Virginia Tech game, you could see how to slow down the speed.
The Buckeyes need to come out firing. We can't wait until the second half to come out and play good. We need to. First quarter, they need to come out and play Buckeye football.
Exactly. And the kicker better have been practicing all week inside the stadium, kicking on that. Well, and I think, and with Virginia Tech's kicker, I think that the new turf is an issue.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, that's a good point about the kicking. Nuremberger missed 2 huge field goals in that game against Virginia Tech that could have went a long way and toward helping Ohio State maybe even win that game. I wanted to point out, too, the coach for Kent State, Paul Haynes, he was Ohio State's co-defensive coordinator in 2011 and defensive back coach for 6 years before for going to Arkansas, be Arkansas's defensive coordinator in 2012. So that'll be interesting to watch. Final score prediction, guys. I think the Buckeyes roll in this game. I think the final score somewhere around. I think they're gonna play angry. I think they're gonna finally play that angry football Urban wants. I think they're gonna win the game somewhere around 55-10. What do you think? We'll start with you, Andrew.
I'm gonna go with 49-14.
63-7.
Wow, you're more optimistic than me.
Well, I'm looking for that anger.
I hope they score that high.
I'd like to see something like the Florida A&M game last year, where they're just doing what they want.
Let's hope so. We need to see this weekend.
Well, I'm looking for some defensive scoring also.
Let's hope.
Let's hope so as well. That's it for our show. As we wrap up here, of course, you can find all of it. If you may be watching this now on our site, MinlessScarletandGray.com. Check out all of our articles there. Shannon's Power Poll, and so many other different articles posted up this week. Lots of great articles on the site, so go check those out. Follow us on Twitter. Our fearless leader at MotSaG, and all of our other Twitter handles can be found at MinlessScarletandGray.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Google+. Of course, this podcast is on iTunes. It'll be on here shortly, later tonight. You can find that by typing in MotSaG Live on the iTunes search bar, or you can go to our site and you can find in our podcast post a link to that, subscribe to that as well. So that's the show, guys. As we head in here in week 3, what's your final thoughts heading into this weekend, Shannon?
Remember, if you guys have any questions for us, hit us up at askmotsag@gmail.com. Final thoughts is I'm looking for an angry football team. I'm looking for fans to be more subdued and polite and be real Buckeye Nation fans.
Andrew?
Yeah. Like I said, last weekend against Virginia Tech, I don't think that was the Buckeye team we will be seeing this year. So, I still think there's a chance for playoffs. I think we can run the table and go 11-1. High game from the Buckeyes. And Buckeye Nation, you guys need to keep faith up, because Buckeye football will be back, and everything should be fine.
I hope the Big Ten isn't as embarrassing this weekend. I hope they bounce back. I hope the Buckeyes have a big bounce back. They need a big win to rebuild momentum and the confidence in the team. And as far as the rest of college football, I hope for chaos. I want to see absolute chaos. I want to see upsets left and right happening to some of the top teams, especially those SEC teams, because we need some shakeup. I want to see some shakeup in the top 25, because that always makes it interesting. I'm sure there'll be a couple upsets or two this weekend, as always in college football, that'll surprise everyone. I'm hoping for that. Hoping for a wild another conference to have a bad weekend as the Big Ten, so everyone stops talking about the Big Ten. So that's my final thoughts. That's it for the show. Number 4 down. The 4th episode now done and complete. Hopefully next weekend, being a bye weekend, we have some plans for that. We'll let you know on the site, and follow us on Twitter, of course. We'll let you know there as well. So that's it for the show, guys. Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
We're from Ohio. We're from Ohio. Oh, hey! We're from Ohio.